I want to start by saying I do not believe in the paranormal. I'm an accountant. I take the bus to work every day. I eat lunch at the same hot food hub every Tuesday and Thursday. And I track my grocery spending in a spreadsheet. I am, by any measure, a boring person. Which is why what happened over a month ago still bothers me in a way I can't quite file away. Everyone I tell this to says I was drunk and misremembering. But I've drunk a lot more than I did that night. A month ago, I was invited to a party by an old friend, and it went well as any party I have ever been invited to. That was until I had to leave. I would take an Uber back home as planned, a trip that would take less than 10 minutes. I requested a ride that had me wait for 5 minutes. I waited for a while on the street, under the inky starless sky, while the party was clearing, and some people were heading to second locations. When the Uber arrived, an ugly grey Datsun Go, I got on and greeted the driver who didn't respond, but I was too tired to care. The road was familiar, the same row of trees, flickering and burning out streetlights. There were no other cars on the road, which made sense considering it was well over midnight, and the path heading home was through a remote road with wide open grassy plains on either side. I paid through the app when the car stopped. Only I wasn't home, I was back at the party location. The house and street now in grave silence. The only evidence of there ever being a party being the black plastic, bags full of paper plates and paper cups outside the gate. I checked my bank account, and there was no transaction history for the past day. It was colder then, the wind biting, and I was a little scared. It was difficult to think I had just imagined that entire trip, that I had blacked out for a full 10 minutes. I called for another Uber, and it was the same grey Datsun Go. I looked through the windscreen at the driver. I hadn't looked at him before, but as I looked at him now, he stared straight ahead, as if I wasn't standing next to his car, examining his face. He had on a bucket hat that covered about half his face, and he wore a large black coat. I swallowed, as that was the only thing I could do. It was either get into the car and pray I make it home, or spend a minute, more than I wanted to, on the side of that dark, godforsaken road waiting for an Uber that wasn't grey and driven by a cold, menacing man. I greeted hello, which was met with no answer. Again, I ignored it, looking at the driver's hand, his fat fingers wrapping around the gear lever. The road was the same empty, peaceful path, if not for my racing heart, and the metallic taste that took hold of my tongue. I hoped this would be the drive getting me home, so I could curl into my bed and laugh this nightmare away. It wasn't. 1:17 the clock read when I checked it when the car stopped. I walked away from the house I was standing outside of. At some point, the house was what was scary. If I hadn't been as scared as I was, I might have gone inside and asked to stay for a while. But there was the chance no one was home, and the door would be opened by a tall man in a long coat, who would wrap his long, fat hands around my throat. The main road was even quieter, and the wind blew harder, but the lack of houses and dark yards made it bearable. I hesitated, calculating the distance if I decided to walk, but it wasn't a journey I could make as tipsy as I was feeling. I waited a few minutes. The cold wouldn't allow me to stay there any longer, so I requested another Uber. This time, the car that showed up was different. A white Suzuki Swift. The driver looked up at me through the windscreen. He scanned me from head to toe, looking almost as scared as I was. I got into the car and greeted him. He greeted me back in a soft young voice. I must not have been expecting a reply, because hearing a sound come out of him sent a shiver down my spine, and blood straight to the back of my tongue. I pressed myself against the door, curling into myself, and prayed. I wasn't a religious person, haven't been for a long time, but I prayed, begging the God my mother spent so long trying to get me to believe in again. My eyes were closed through another prayer when I heard the sound of another car driving past us. The only other car on the road, but reliving enough. I paid the driver through the Uber app before thanking him. My pleasure. he answered, looking right at me, in a way that allowed me to release a breath I didn't know I was holding. He stayed there, waiting until I locked the gate to drive off. I had never regretted living alone as much as I was regretting it then. I held a prayer on my mind as I walked through the house, switching on all the lights in every room. I watched 2 rom-coms before the sun finally shone into my bedroom, and I could finally call my mother. It was during this call that I realized the email with my ride details never came through.